Hi guys, today we are here to see this British Columbia's Parliament building. Look at this gigantic monumental statue of Queen Victoria. She lived in World War II time. This is Queen Victoria. She was born 1837, passed away 1901. So actually we came inside the Parliament building, British Columbia Victoria Parliament. Parliamentary symbols. ආයුබෝවන් යාළුවනේ, ඔන්න ඉතින් අපි ආවා බ්‍රිටිෂ් කොලොම්බියා ප්‍රාන්තයට බිල්ලිම ඇතුළට. එහි ඓතිහාසික කරුණු ගැන සියසින් දැක බලාගෙන ඔබලා සමග එය බෙදා ගන්න. There's a big canoe as a symbol. It's a story of Sextos tale. The Honorable Stephen Point, former Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia, found the red cedar log with which canoe is carved while walking along Ross Bay Beach in Victoria.
We can't be loud.
The logs started carving it into the canoe in the past, possibly as many as 500 years ago. The Honorable Stephen Point,
What are you reading?
An official residence, and over the course of 13 months he led the Chief Tony Hunt, hereditary chief of the Commonwealth and master carver, carved and pointed this canoe. And this is the British Columbia symbol of sign, the coat of armor of British Columbia. The cast aluminum sculpture of British Columbia's coat of armor was unveiled by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II at the ceremony in the Law Courts, Vancouver, October 1987. 1987, Queen Elizabeth unveiled this one.
So my name is Grace. I'm going to be your tour guide today. If you guys need any questions, feel free to ask, and you can take as many photos and videos as you like in any part, in any room that we visit today. So this video is called the Shorty Tossel. The very Honorable Stephen L. Point. He was the very first Indigenous Lieutenant Governor in British Columbia, and he found this humongous piece of red cedar log, just a big old log, over in Ross Bay, locally here in Victoria. And it was already about half-four to the shape of the canoe, but his guess is that someone abandoned it for 500 years. Anything else about the Shorty Tossel? We all turn to the left, and we all go clockwise, just so that you can look for the eyes, the nose, the tail, and the scale of the canoe. So we can all turn this way. And then now, so if we look to the center, we're just there at the Shorty Tossel, and now we're up here. This room is also called the Memorial Rotunda. That's what this is actually dedicated to the veterans of British Columbia who fought in the dedicated to their sacrifice, kind of like on behalf of the province. So if you look above us, we have 4 different flags. Does everyone recognize the flag over here?
Yeah.
Does anyone know the flag over here? Yeah, so this is our
The flag of British Columbia. The sun setting last.
over here. Does anyone know what flag this one is?
Union Jack?
English or Union Jack? This one's very tricky. It's actually called the Canadian color. The center of the flag is the number 67. And then over here, right across there for our last flag, that is called the White Ensign. It's actually the official flag for the British Royal Navy, but Canada actually used it for our own flag for terms of the Navy. If you look further up, we have 4 paintings in each corner of the ceiling. So these 4 paintings are really meant to illustrate the 4 main industries the very first person to go all the way around Vancouver Island for the first time, and he made extremely detailed maps for his time in the 17th century. That's why we're named Vancouver Island after him. And then over on the mainland, the biggest city in British Columbia, Vancouver, is also named after him. 2017 marks 100 years that women in British Columbia were allowed to vote. However, not all women celebrate that date because of ongoing sexism and colonialism. So in 1917, if you were a woman and you were Chinese like myself, or if you were South Asian, Indigenous, or of religious groups, and you were a woman, you still weren't allowed to vote. And that wasn't until 1952 when both men and women were allowed to vote here in British Columbia. So it's super important to acknowledge that. The very first woman elected into the chamber was Miss Mary Ellen Smith. She was elected in 1918, and she's right. It's hard to find her, but she's actually on the second row, right in the center. She had a very famous saying that she was the only woman in a sea of mustaches. So you'll notice she's kind of drowning in men and a lot of facial hair. But she really started a movement and a legacy for women in British Columbia. She's the very first woman to run or serve in the chamber. The very first woman to run in the chamber as a black woman was Miss Rosemary Brown in 1972. And the very first Indigenous woman to serve as an MLA was Mrs. Melody Mark in 2016. So it's very recent, and just goes to show that the Legislative Assembly does have a lot of room for improvement and growth, but ruled actually, it's not that much, just with these students. Yeah.
So those are 22 karat gold.
Fancy or ornate than the one we're just in below. Yeah. So this is called the ceremonial entrance. And it's all because of these doors right over here, so we can gather around today.
These golden petals are real gold plated. 22 karat gold.
So all the first four I mentioned that are head of state.
Just to mention mining industry.
Is King Charles III. But our head of government is our honorable Prime Minister. Does anyone remember his name? Yeah, Justin Trudeau. So these doors are only for head of state. So King Charles III, if he ever comes to visit, he can come this way. Along with the Emperor and Empress of Japan, they're the heads of their very own state. The President of the United States, he can come through here. Indigenous chiefs in Canada are the head of their state, but Justin Trudeau cannot come through these doors. And when he comes to visit, it's very similar to you guys on the first floor by security, but that's because he's only head of government, so not the head of
Not
state.
the head state.
Yeah. A lot of people ask what are the main differences between head of government and head of state. Head of government is typically an elected individual, so the people of Canada voted Mr. Trudeau into power, whereas usually a head of state is a hereditary position, so it's through the bloodline where you're passed on. However, the President of the United States, he's an elected individual as well, but the US is not a part of the Commonwealth, so that's why he's considered a head of state. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, so if we didn't have a king, then our head of state would be our our head of government would be our head of state. So Trudeau could walk this way, but Canada wouldn't look a lot different in terms of our politics. Yeah. So this is called the Legislative Chamber. So this is where our real politicians and workers, they come into the building to look at this, or to work in here, sorry. So you see all those desks and all those chairs. So it's all assigned seating. There are 87 chairs for 87 members, and that's who we call members of the Legislative Assembly, or MLAs for short. So we're elected. So every 4 years is an election, and the people of British Columbia get to vote for who they think is the best person, or maybe even political party to represent their community. And then at the end of the election, there are 87 members, and each one of them is responsible for about 50,000 people of the population in British Columbia. Of government provincially, Mr. David Eby has like a newborn and toddler at home. He lives in Vancouver, so I imagine that over the weekends he would like to go visit his kids, of course, and be with his family. But it really depends on your situation.
What is going on here? I know. Yeah, let's go then. Yeah, we are going.
So George got the record.
මනුස්සය.
We got it. Water.
Oh, that is the Queen Victoria statue beside big green evergreen tree. There's a big ceremony going on today, same day. By fountain.
Like shots to sleep.
All young kids, yeah. They do it in front of Parliament building. Wow. So there's a protest going on. Even one person stand out for their opinions. They say jail